Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. All right, folks. You got to wonder what this guy's doing up in the middle of the night. He's up at all kinds of hours. And you figure a guy that's what, 78, 79 years old would be getting some good sleep, some good rest, eating better on a healthy diet, maybe walk a few laps around the rose garden. I don't know. But this guy's up all night doing God knows what to God knows who. And isn't there someone in the White House that cares about this guy? Will somebody take this guy's phone? I'm joined by my partner Brock Ganeles from the lovely Hudson Valley up north, right outside New York City. Brock, what? I mean, these tweets, and the thing, just this guy's off his rocker. He's literally dementia walking in the presidency suit. I mean, he's losing his marbles and we're watching it. I mean, the West Point speech had to be just a colossal failure by anyone's imagination.
I mean, it was one of the worst speeches of all time, right? But I mean, I guess this week, we haven't spoken in a couple of days. Maybe we tried to have a little normalcy to our lives, visit some family. I don't know, get sucked into a graduation party or two, right? The sort of
Right.
things that like so many of us did over Memorial Day weekend. And meanwhile, Trump is just displaying his psychosis, his mental decline. He's like a angry lost soul out there, like barreling around the world, just saying crazy shit. The West Point speech, one of the worst of all time,
Oh
got
my God.
off on some crazy tangent, once again an embarrassment to the country. And then he didn't stay and shake the hands of the cadets like most presidents do because he wanted to scoot away to play some golf. So, like, he's a fraud as well, as usual. But I guess I'm just kind of fed up with anyone in the media and really even MAGA. No, not like pretending as though they're not dealing with just a dazed and confused mad king. Now, some of them, the white supremacists in Project 2025 behind the scenes, just want to get their shit done and turn this country into a Christian theocracy. So they probably don't, he's just a vessel that they're using. I'm sure they shake their heads in the background. But I literally saw like a headline that was like, oh, Trump shocks insiders with his comments on West Point. And I'm like, bullshit. There's no one who spends any time with Donald Trump that's shocked by his behavior in public. There's no way. His behavior in private must be just 10x. Just imagine some of the shit he says when he's not like, trying to be, quote, even close to careful or humane.
Right.
But like he's a fraud and he's lost. And he's always been a malignant narcissist and a psychopath. And now he's one in mental decline. And I mean, we're 120, 130 days into this. There's no way we can just continue down these tracks and allow a person of this poor mental acuity run shit.
Right. Especially when we're talking about Joe Biden from 2024, from the election, and what cover up? What are you talking about? Maybe he was a little slow on the draw at that debate, and I get that. I mean, I saw it. But man, you're going to sit here and tell me that you'd rather have this dude with his hands on the nuclear codes than Mr. Biden? Please get the fuck out of here because this guy is all over the place. I mean, he's at West Point talking about trophy wives. Trophy wives. You get a trophy wife. Doesn't work out. What are you talking about? What are you talking? Nobody wanted to join the military under Biden, but he's talking to a class full of graduates at West Point who all joined under Biden. What are you talking about, dude? Do you even know where you are? It's like Daddy Adderall, right? Just floating around, taking up space, taking free air from people who really need it. I mean, this guy is just pathetic at this point, and we're it's more of a reflection on us and our society than it is on him because we voted for this shit. We have an electorate that said, yeah, We'll take this guy. He rocks.
I mean, we just can't have a tone it down attitude. Like, everyone has to be pointing out this shit and going after Trump and the idiocy. And all the time. Like, anytime with someone like analyzes as if there's some strategic nature behind what he's doing, because what we didn't even mention, like, he lobbed out 50% tariffs against Europe, but 24 hours later they're now, quote, delayed till July 7th. It's never going to happen. It's like some bullshit game. He's just begging for the attention and begging for, looking to make some, cash on the side to get bribed to roll things back, right? So, or to announce victory, to pretend like he won something, to personally enrich himself, but ultimately just to be the center of attention of the world, where everyone has to come to him for their economies to work, and everyone has to bend and kiss his ring.
Right.
And it's just become it's already a tired act, and we're in the second quarter of his first year.
Right. And, the BS game, you bullshitting everybody, left and right. Dude, you can't remember the lies you told. $1.98 gas. Still haven't found it. Still haven't found it. Been looking for it ever since he said it.
$1.98 gas.
Eggs way down.
Russia-Ukraine peace on day one. Fix the Gaza situation on day two, right? Like, none of this shit has happened. Absolutely not, none of it.
No, these folks been fighting for thousands of years, and he's going to fix it in 2 days because he couldn't fix it in his first term. He said, Jarvanka over there to fix it, and they couldn't get it done. Now he thinks he's the guy that's going to stop these warring factions that have been fighting each other for thousands of years, because he, of all people, understands the Middle East conflict better than anyone else in the world.
But even punted on peace. He punted on peace because someone sold him on the idea that he could have a golf course over there. So then he just pivoted to that being the ultimate goal. So now, like, let's just deport all the people out of there, and I'm going to build a golf course, because, like, in his mind, here's something for me, right? Like, oh, free plane from Qatar. Okay, I'll take it. What do you mean? I'd be a sucker not to take it. But Memorial Day is always a day where it gets particularly embarrassing because he's a draft dodger. He's already called the troops suckers and losers. He has no appreciation for it, doesn't give a shit about them. And it actually bothers me and angers me. And I've always kind of considered Memorial Day a fraud, because as a country, we don't take care of our troops. So we pretend like we honor them on one day out of the year. But it's even worse when Trump's involved, because he absolutely doesn't care about any of them. And it kind of pisses me off that every veteran isn't anti-Trump. Like, how any of them are hanging on to MAGA is just amazing to me, because if they're not being directly affected, he's affecting their brothers and sisters, right? He's cutting their health care. He's just making their lives after being warriors worse. But then he'll go and give a couple platitudes that someone wrote on paper for him, and then he's up and out of there.
Right. And you saw the young lady, too, whose father was killed in action, the police officer, and she was given a medal at the Trump ceremony. Did you catch that one? A very similar circumstance. This young lady rolled her eyes the entire time she was up there, and went viral. And she was like, where was Trump when my father was killed? Right? He had nothing to say. Now he's here for the cameras, and everybody expects me to smile. It's the same thing. He puts out some ridiculous tweet. Happy Memorial. First of all, anytime you start something with Happy Memorial Day, obviously you don't understand the meaning.
The holiday, yeah.
You don't understand it. And then you can only make it worse from there. And the fact that he doesn't understand service, right? Much less public service. He doesn't understand the presidency, doesn't understand how government works. I mean, it's just a sham, and he draws attention to himself. And let's just figure out the things that Trump likes, right? Things that make him money, right? Things that make him money. The adoration of all his sycophantry, right? Things that make his pee-pee hard, right? And, all the attention that he can get. Those are the only things he really cares about. That's all he really cares. I mean, and it's mostly the money. I read the other day that it was 40% of his wealth has been achieved since he took the presidency. Since he took the presidency. How frightening is that? How frightening is that?
120 days. Oh, it's the most corrupt administration. But I read a funny thing. One of the meme coin guys who was at that dinner was bitching that he got like a lousy steak and never even got to meet the president. So like, and somebody wrote like, "Oh, the greatest scam artist," meaning those meme coin guys, got scammed by an even better scam artist. Like they were surprised, right?
Right.
Once again, they were so like he really thought they were gonna have a good sit down with him and like
Right.
strategy and like really
No.
bond as like they're bros. Come on,
And
Trump's
Lamar Odom was up in there.
just trying
Come
to
on.
make some money on the side. But
Yeah.
the other thing that kind of slipped out today, because Trump had been quasi disciplined on this topic for a couple weeks, is that in his
Quasi.
Arlington Cemetery speech today, he did call that military parade his birthday parade. Because
Ooh.
he thinks that's all about fucking him.
Him.
That's why I want that June 14th thing shut down, because it's not really a military parade.
No, it's all about him.
It's his birthday. This
Right.
is his honoring himself and getting the adulation and the adoration. And maybe this is one that doesn't have, the money involved, but he wants to be the center of attention on his birthday. He's basically throwing a
Exactly.
birthday party for himself, which is why even the more reason why we have to shut it down. But there was just a steady string of just absurdities where if it was a movie, you'd be kind of laughing along and say, no, the character like this could never be president. People would figure it out. But the Times and the newspapers are still writing like, oh, Trump ushers in a new military era during speech at West Point. It's like, huh?
Huh?
Come on, stop the bullshit. He rambled and bumbled and sounded like an idiot. The only thing he didn't pull out was an Arnold Palmer in the shower story, right? He pulled out every other idiotic story under the sun.
Right.
And embarrassed and, didn't understand the moment, didn't care about the moment, made it all about him, and then jetted out of there when it came time to actually shake the hands of the cadets.
But you know what the sad part is, Brock? Those are our best and brightest. And I would venture to say a large percentage of them are Trump fans and are still going to be after that shit show of a speech, which is what we're like.
Yeah,
How do
it's
we not?
problematic because they're caught up in this "Make America Great" and they're all part of making America great, and we're going to be tougher on the world stage. I mean, people buy into, there's a good chunk of America buying into the bullshit.
Right.
Hopefully, little by little, they get disillusioned like that meme coin guy or like the Cubans now, that have been such staunch Republican voters, but now they're getting deported and their family members are getting deported. And now there's a little bit of a quandary. Like some of
Right.
them are still hanging in there. Oh, yeah, my wife got deported, but, I still love Trump. Look, it's just like a
Right.
weird statement. But so they're starting to peel off. And then I think there's a press conference tomorrow, and I hope this gets a lot of attention because I think this woman is like telegenic and a really good spokesperson. It's that college woman from Dalton, Georgia, who got pulled by ICE, even though she's an American citizen, and she was like
Yeah.
thrown away for like 3 weeks, and she's now
Yes.
been released,
Right.
and she's making noise.
Yeah.
She's pissed, and she's telling the Latino community that nobody is safe.
Right. Right.
So I hope that catches a little more fire because that's been the problem. That's why they won't bring back Abrego Garcia and all these others because they don't want people in front of the microphones. This woman's in front of the microphones and she's like calling out a warning and saying with this, I saw one short interview with her where she's saying like, with this president, none of us are safe.
Right. And that's the scary part. And getting right back to the West Point speech, before he said a word, right, he was inappropriately dressed again, as he was at the Pope's funeral with the MAGA hat on. You don't wear a MAGA hat to a ceremony like that. It's just ridiculous. But getting back to the deportation fiasco, right? She's right, because none of us are safe. We don't know when they're going to start statue black folks. And the fact that no one has been brought back after these court orders, and then they're trying to shove down the throats of the Democrats in the House the fact that Oh yeah, we're going to put this little no president can be found in contempt, you know, legislation in here, and all the BS that went in there, and the stuff that they lied about that said was in there that isn't in there. But the deportation nonsense is just disgusting because you're basically separating families again, but they don't care because it's cruelty for cruelty's sake.
Cruelty as a deterrent. You know, I'm hoping maybe we get a little bit of a, because to me it's all about winning the media game against Trump. So that's why I want like high profile entertainers, just high profile people in general attacking him and pointing out like the absurdity and the foolishness and the idiocy of his regime so because, you know, popular people can get headlines and they can steal the headlines from Trump, and that cuts into his adoration, his adulation. So that bothers him and that knocks him off course. So I just, I keep looking for us to do more and more of that. One thing I wanted to ask you about, what was your take on the 5th anniversary of George Floyd's death?
I'm disappointed in us as a society. All the goodwill that was promised and pledged immediately in the aftermath has basically been wiped off the table. Of the consent decrees, gone. The opportunity to reform and rethink modern day policing, gone. The opportunities to bring community and law enforcement closer together to work together in the communities that they patrol and live in, gone. I think the Cincinnati situation points that out. And we're right back to where we were in a hotbed of activity. I just saw a clip night before last where Oakland police got run out of a barber shop because they had come in without a warrant. The shop owner, people in the community started yelling and screaming at the police. They were hugely outnumbered and they got up out of there. And so, we can't function as a society when we don't have, one, the rule of law, number two, law, and I hate to say law and order because of the way it's been bastardized over the last 5 decades, but we have to be able to have respect for the law. And it's hard for African Americans to respect the law when you got Pete Diddy on trial for 3 counts, who's looking at going away for the rest of his life. Donald Trump got convicted of 34 counts of fraud, and he becomes president. Right? You see what I'm saying here with the disconnect? And, some smart, intelligent white folks will look you dead in the face and tell you there isn't one system, of law and order for black folks and a totally different one for white America. What are you talking about? We're seeing it right now on display. And for African Americans who have had their family torn apart by the legal system, for all those children that have been left behind. If you think about it, 2.3 million people behind bars right now, at a child and a half per person, right? Think about all the kids that are left behind, right? And think about all those kids that'll grow up without one of their parents, because this is women too. Don't forget the black and brown woman is the least respected person in our society. And black women are the most educated, but yet get the least amount of respect. So I'm disappointed 5 years later. I thought we were moving toward that reckoning that many people are saying we need right now. I was listening to an interview with Keith Ellison, the district attorney in Minnesota, or state's attorney in Minnesota. Yeah, and they played a clip of Chauvin with his knee on George Floyd's neck, the part where he calls for his mom. And it just brought me back to that horrific day, and seeing that image once again. And then feeling, great concern for my 2 grandsons, my 2 sons, right? Black men that are my friends, and black men in general. Because we have a different concern when we get pulled over for a basic traffic stop. Right? You don't know what kind of mood that police officer is in. And, until white America starts having to have that talk with their teenagers, which is obviously not going to happen in our lifetime, and it shouldn't have to happen for us to have, a society that respects one another. But yeah, you know, my son's got to have that conversation with his boys, before they start driving. Here's what you do when the police pull you over. No sudden moves. Both hands on the steering wheel. Don't reach for anything until he gives you permission. Pull over in a lighted area. Call someone if you can before he gets up to the window so they can listen to what's happening or FaceTime what's happening. As a matter of fact, there's a new app out that allows you to immediately FaceTime an attorney during a police stop. So that's where we are now, Brock. And it's just upsetting to me that all the goodwill that was pledged was wiped away with a simple election. Because there was too much progress, I think, and too much of white America said, yeah, that's too much progress. We're not going that far.
Yeah, I mean, the DEI, the move towards DEI, I think was kind of an outgrowth of the protests. It was a way
Yes.
for corporate America to start doing some things and doing a wake up call outside of the justice system.
Right.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, part of me, I don't want to overstate it and feel like it was like the whole that all of that was a fraud because some companies themselves have hung with it. But in terms of on the justice side of things, it's almost like Sandy Hook, like where it happened. And then years later, like to me, it was like 5 years later, and America didn't give a shit. That was my reaction to the George Floyd thing. Like, America didn't want to hear it. We're in this white supremacy movement. We have more conversations now about the disaffected 20 to 30-year-old white male that voted MAGA that like isn't going to live as good a life as their parents, even though they still have every opportunity and advantage in the world. We're supposed to really be worried about the young white males in America because they're getting radicalized, this and that. So they're becoming more misogynistic, more racist. It's like, okay, what, because, economics have gone against them. Like, it's just like, once again, America, like, it turns its eyes back to, in essence, won't solve the big problems. So let's solve, some little ones or some imagined, you know, problems on, the other side of the ledger.
Right.
Yeah. So I just thought it was like, it was just swept away,
Yeah.
ultimately just swept away.
And I remember during, the cleanup after the riots here in Atlanta, my fraternity brothers and I, there was quite a few of us that had gone downtown to help with the cleanup. And we were with a group of white women, younger than, of course, we're old, but much younger than us. But, we had great conversations with them. We thanked them for coming down to the city and being a part and having concern and, and being able to be, up close and personal and committed to the issue, to making our community a better place and to sharing, their support. And, it almost seems like it was all for naught, which is so frustrating because that was a great time to bring us together as a society as a whole, right? To talk about that multicultural, multiracial kind of faction that is working toward a fairer and more just America. And with Donald Trump, we just see, the haters really prevail. And I am shocked by the amount of white women and white men who said, nah, I'd rather have the racism than, have 401k.
Yeah, and, in essence, their vision of a healthier America is to sort of like let's go back to a like strict hierarchy and order, right? Where white men are like definitely in charge of everything, right? And white women get the number two seat at the table, right? I think we talked about Latinos think they get the number three seat, right? So a lot of them move into the MAGA movement,
Right.
and I guess that for the most part, that's enough to tip the scales,
Right.
right? And I don't know, I still don't see what they're getting out of it besides the racism, or if that's just enough because everyone's doing worse, right? We're getting healthier, we're
Right.
getting less, we're getting less wealthy, and we're getting less healthy. The two maybe most important things in most people's lives.
Exactly.
And and yet that whole contingent is still pretending like
Right.
Donald Trump is like a legitimate leader of kind of anything. Like they're just like they could read that, they could listen to that speech if they cared to, right? Like they're reading his tweet. Like they recognize that an all caps tweet on Memorial Day calling Democrats scum and just like is just not presidential and is not like someone who is in the state of mind
Right.
to be following. Like you wouldn't follow that person like across the street and the sidewalk, right? Like you wouldn't trust them for anything, right?
Right.
Yet they're trusting him to run the country. And I just wonder if we can get, when they're going to start peeling off because he's ripping everyone off blind and he doesn't care about any of them, right? FEMA just voted Trump just now allowing FEMA to go into Arkansas. This is a month after the floods, right? Of Huckabee Sanders begging him. Still turned down aid to North Carolina.
Right. Right. Which was devastated.
They flew there, said he would help them, flew out, denied them nothing.
And
Go fuck yourselves, Western North Carolina, basically.
Right. Heavy Trump country.
Yeah.
Heavy duty Trump
You're voting
country.
for me. Go fuck yourselves.
Right.
It wouldn't cost me a nickel. It wouldn't cost me a nickel to send you money to rebuild your house or maybe get electricity back in your home or running water. Because I'd rather have these tax cuts that benefit me and the people that are then going to buy my meme coin and put money into my bank account. So you're fucked. Right? Because it's our money, right? It's how our tax money gets allocated. We around the country are sitting around going, you know what? Send some money to North Carolina. We watched the videos. We saw the flooding. Yep, send some money to Kentucky. Yeah, that looked bad. That tornado must have been tough. Yeah, send some money to Arkansas. I don't love these states, but I get it. Send my tax money and help those people. That's what we do as Americans. Trump's sitting there. Trump is sitting there vetoing, saying no to sending that money, even to the people that most support him. Meanwhile, the rest of us who don't even want to acknowledge those people are a part of the same country we live in, right? That's me most days, right? But I want him to send my money to those people now because they're in need. But he's not allowing it. It's just amazing, right? Yet they still love him.
Right. But hey, let's spend about $1 billion or $1.5 billion, unscrewing that plane, that $400 million airplane, right? What's it going to cost us to take that thing apart and put it back together again, right? I mean, it's ridiculous, man. The fact that this guy is so brain dead and has no clue what is actually going on around him. Isn't there anyone that cares about this guy? That's spending some time? Hey, let me see your phone before you send out that tweet. Or, here's a list of approved tweets for you to send out.
But the people around him love that shit also, and they think that it lights up their base, and that's the sort of dog food that they need to feed to their rabid dogs on a consistent basis to keep them angry and on edge and ready to fight for Trump. So that's just the red meat brigade, right? They're constantly looking for something, own the libs, own the libs, own the libs. So the people closest to him, I think they're encouraging it.
Right. It's a good point.
The people that weren't encouraging it are no longer there.
Right. It's a good point, bro. All right, dude, that's the final word for this evening. Don't forget, June 14th, we want to shut that military parade down. That is also Obama Appreciation Day.
And Trump's birthday parade, according to him.
His birthday parade. So we want to shut that down, make sure it never gets off the ground, and post as many pictures as you can on social media of the great President Obama. So June 14th, mark it on your calendars, pass it on. Obama Appreciation Day. All right, bro.
All right. Always a pleasure. All right. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
See you next time. Bye.